It is 10:01. Good morning. I'm Lucas Panzica. Michigan basketball coach Juwan Howard has been suspended 5 games and fined $40,000 for hitting a Wisconsin assistant in an altercation during the post-game handshake following Michigan's loss to Wisconsin on Sunday. The Big Ten has announced the suspension will carry through the end of the regular season. Howard released a statement apologizing for the incident on Monday. Also, 2 Michigan players and a Wisconsin player were suspended 1 game each, and Wisconsin head coach Greg Gard fined $10,000. Potentially bad news for Atlanta Braves fans. ESPN's Buster Olney reporting there is a growing belief that first baseman Freddie Freeman could land elsewhere due to a standoff in negotiations. The NFL has altered its COVID policies for the Combine next week in Indianapolis amid talks of a boycott by prospects. The league will now not require masks and will allow approved medical support personnel to interact with prospects in secure areas. The Combine is set to run from March 1st through the 7th in Indianapolis. Slight update in the case of Houston Texans quarterback Deshaun Watson. A Houston judge ruled Monday Watson can face questions under oath in some of the 22 civil cases filed against him by women alleging harassment and sexual assault during massage sessions. Watson's attorney said a decision on whether or not he will be criminally charged will likely come by April 1st. He also had a motion denied to delay Watson's deposition until after April 1st. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once in your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Good morning. Welcome into 104.5 The Zone. So happy to have you guys in for today's show on this Tuesday. Welcome in. Buck Reising here with you until 1 o'clock. Lucas Panzica's making it happen. We got guests on deck. We got your phone calls as well. 615-737-1045 if you would like to jump in on the show today. 615-737-1045. Suspensions are being handed down. There's some things we got to talk about in hoops later on. But in the meantime, we are at a critical point in the NFL calendar. Today is the day that the window opens for teams to be able to apply tags, franchise tag, transition tag, all of these different things to try and keep players under contract while they try and work things out. And so for the Titans, got a pretty interesting free agency situation here in Nashville when you kind of look at the guys who are going to be out, going to be available, who are currently out from under their contracts right now, and then kind of add that into what the projected franchise tag values look like for 2022. So just to kind of refresh your memory, if you're unfamiliar, you've got a handful of unrestricted free agents this year. All 3 of the tight ends that played significant snaps for you in Anthony Ferkser, Michael Pruitt, and Jeff Swaim. Got Tommy Hudson on the roster, spent most of his time on the practice squad. So he would be your only returning player with experience at that position. Rashaan Evans, Jayon Brown, your linebacker situation is going to get a little thinner. And then you've got Ben Jones, who's arguably been your most consistent and reliable player throughout the course of this. And then at the top of the market, and there are many other names, Randy Bullock among them, by the way, your kicker situation thrown into flux. Have to make a decision on that coming up fairly soon. But in the meantime, Harold Landry is the biggest chess piece on the board right now as to where you have to make the decision with him. You know that he's going to make upwards of $17 million a year coming up. You know that that's about where the tag is projected. If you want to consider Harold a linebacker, you can tag him on the franchise tag for $18.5 million, according to SpotTrack. If you want to consider Harold Landry a defensive end, that price point is just $1 million lower at $17.5 million. So sizable chunk of your salary cap right out the gate. In fact, I believe he would have, if you were to tag him, he would take up the third highest percentage of your salary cap among players after Ryan Tannehill and Bud Dupree, who, again, remember, is expected to count, or who will count against the cap for upwards of $19 million this year. So you have plenty of time with which to explore the tag deadline. You've got basically until early summer to make a decision on this kind of thing. But what I want to talk about today with you guys is what makes the most financial sense. Do you even want to keep Harold Landry around for that price point? There seems to be a lot of indecision in Titans fans, just based on the general dialogue that we've had on the show, that you see on social media, about what to do with one of the most important players on the football team. Now, when Mike Vrabel ended their season with the locker room clean-out day press conference, he didn't mention any names specifically. But given the idea that he favors Ben Jones and Harold Landry, both for their work ethic, their talent, and more than anything in this sport, their durability, you'll recall that Ben Jones, I can't think of did Ben Jones miss a start this year? I would have to look that up on Pro Football Reference.
I don't think so, because I feel like we would remember that significantly, because there's quite a drop-off at that position.
I know he missed some snaps against the Jets because Brewer had that snap that went over Tannehill's head. But
That's
other than
what
that,
I mean. When Ben Jones wasn't on the field, it was pretty noticeable.
Yeah, it's a nightmare scenario. Even as Ben is getting up there in age, and by the way, Harold Landry, 4 years in the league, he hasn't missed a game in the last 3 since he became a full-time starter. So as far as this is concerned, are you willing to pay up for a premier pass rusher, top of market value, somebody who is, at least privately to people around him, stated that he desires to be the highest paid player in his meeting room, which again would put him over the $16.5 million average annual value of somebody in his own meeting room currently, like Bud Dupree. Puts him right on pace with where the rest of the market is headed. Are you willing to make that sacrifice? Because at some point, that's going to put you out of a player that you need. And you've got a fair amount of investment on defense already. When you talk about Bud Dupree, somebody like Danico Autry, who is, outperforming his contract by a mile, but still is counting against your salary cap for meaningful dollars. Kevin Byard, you're going to look at a situation where you have to make a decision on Zach Cunningham in your inside linebacker room. Do you want to pay, north of $10 million against the cap next year to keep he and David Long working together, Monty Rice as a depth piece, and lessen your needs in the NFL draft? Is that where you choose to spend your money as opposed to Harold Landry? Or are you saying there's enough on defense, even as this team has desperately needed, I really think every year since I've been here, like meaningful pass rush, right? You can get by with Brian Arakpo and Derek Morgan, 9, 8.5 sacks a year each, kind of keeping your pass rush alive at a time when you had Jarrell Casey getting pressure on the interior. So you've had a sustainable pass rush really every year outside of 2020 when things completely fell off a cliff. Are you in a position, you as a fan base, now I know how they feel about it internally, but are you prepared to let a hugely talented, young, durable player walk out the door because you recognize that you have needs elsewhere on the roster? You recognize that the reason that you were bounced from the postseason, there are quite a few, but one of the biggest ones is because your offense was limited, whether it's limited by play design, whether it's limited by quarterback play, whether it's limited by the idea that the star running back who was going to get his touches had basically 6 giant pieces of metal in his foot in his first game back in 12 weeks. What we do know is that the offense is going to need help. It's going to need an infusion of life, both through the draft and free agency. So when you're doing your cost-benefit analysis on something like Harold Landry and the franchise tag, he's really the only candidate that this would be applicable for. You're not going to tag Ben Jones. Ben Jones he's coming up on 33 years old. Ben Jones, especially with that price tag for an offensive lineman right now, it's I love Ben. I don't know that he's worth $16.5 million on a franchise tag. So that's out the door. You're not going to tag somebody like Randy Bullock for $5 million. I don't know what you do about the kicker situation. That's going to be one of the more interesting ones, given that they finally found some stability, and he is, of course, an unrestricted free agent. There's a bunch of different things that you're going to have to decide on, make difficult choices on, just as you do each and every offseason. But in the case of Harold, you can find the money to pay him. You can find the money to pay him if you franchise tag him. You can find the money to pay him if you choose to give him a new contract, because, of course, it's not technically an extension. He is out from under his contract as we sit right now. Unrestricted free agency is what awaits him. And he very much is going to test what's out there on the market for him. You could very well find yourself in a bidding war. How many teams need quality pass rushers right now? And the Titans, what's been basically the complete opposite of the last 5 years, Titans have pass rushers to spare. You still have Dupree, Autry, Jeff Simmons. You have the idea of Rashad Weaver, whom you drafted in the 4th round last year, but obviously didn't get any meaningful contributions out of his rookie season due to injury. So you have that kind of in the background as a temporary plan to either bring somebody in the draft, sign a pass rusher who's more of a value, given what you already have on the roster, or bring back the guy who helped make the Titans one of the best front fours in football. They are infinitely closer to winning a Super Bowl because of that pass rush than anything else right now. I don't think that's any kind of drastic opinion. I don't think that anybody would sit there and argue with me that anything else on that roster, including A.J. Brown, Ryan Tannehill, Derrick Henry, as in whatever current form we are going to see him next year, because we really don't have any idea. That pass rush is their biggest key to continuing to stay relevant, to continuing to stay competitive, to continue to bother the most important position in sports for the opponent, which is, of course, the quarterback. So what would you do with Harold Landry? 615-737-1045 is how you jump in on the conversation. I know some people want to talk about Aaron Rodgers today as well. We'll get some phone calls on all that stuff going on in the NFL on this Tuesday. I'm Buck Reising. It's 1045 The Zone.
Hey, Rocket, what's my mortgage rate? Rocket, when am I closing? Is anyone there? Rockets are really cool, but they don't speak mortgage. You need a home loan expert for that. Get pre-approved for your next mortgage at thehomeloanexpert.com.
Smythe now comes into the backfield with Tagovailoa. Tua, hit, sack! Harold Landry with an even dozen.
Harold Landry. Well, actually, Mike Heath, voice of the Titans on the call there. That was the Dolphins game. Harold Landry, a career-high 12 sacks in a contract year. Now an unrestricted free agent, and as the NFL's window opens for teams to be able to tag, franchise, transition, or otherwise, as that opens today, that window with for teams to be able to make that decision going up basically until the later part of spring, early summer. What would you do with Harold Landry? Because he's really the only tag candidate right now. Chris Barnes has tweeted us, where you can tweet the show, of course, at Buck Reising on Twitter. Harold Landry deserves to get paid from the Titans. Landry has developed great and hopefully retires a Titan. The man plays like 98% of the defensive snaps almost every game. LOL. Hashtag pay the man. And I can't dispute that, right? Harold has been hugely reliable. He has produced as an individual pass rusher, even if his counting stats, like sacks, have not been like they were this year in any other year, right? They had substantially more help alongside Harold Landry and Jeff Simmons to be able to generate a legitimate and, frankly, one of the better pass rushes in football this year. But when it comes to the idea of loyalty, I think people expect Harold, and maybe this is just a loud minority. I think there's a sizable contingent of people out there that expect somebody like Harold Landry or any team, any free agent of their team that drafted them to consider taking less because the franchise means more to them, because it's the place that originally gave them their opportunity in the NFL, because you clearly have a championship roster here. Why would you not want to take less money if it means a ring? People have these unrealistic expectations. People have these unrealistic expectations of athletes, especially in the modern day. And when Mike Vrabel talked about this in his end of season press conference, again, nobody by name did he mention, but we all know who he's talking about when he says, yeah, there's certain guys I'd like to see back in this locker room next year.
I think that we've got some guys that I love coming to work, and I would be disappointed if they weren't with us next year. And I love what they're about. I love how they prepare, how they compete. And I think that what these guys believe in is they believe in the team. And they believe in playing a certain brand of football, about effort and playing physical and playing together.
Again, no names specifically mentioned, but the question was asked within the context of Harold Landry. Harold Landry and Ben Jones are two players that the Titans would like to bring back in an ideal circumstance. But, of course, we know that no circumstance is truly ideal. So when it comes down to the money of it, you know, you're between $18.5 or $17.5 million on a franchise tag. As I said, depending on what Harold Landry classifies as defensive end or linebacker. There's no franchise tag designation just for edge defenders. I imagine at some point that's going to need to change. But for Harold, you know, I'm of the position that it makes more sense to let him walk, even as I understand how important that pass rush was to this football team this year. How often it helped keep them in games when the offense clearly sputtered. Lonzo, in our Zone TV chat, you can interact on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. Lonzo Wright says, I think he'll take a hometown discount. No such thing. Who does that? When have you heard of a player taking a hometown discount? Like a true discount. Brady with the Patriots did this fairly consistently, but the way that they restructured his contracts, it was never like Brady was out a ton of money, making less than the average starting quarterback, which, of course, we know was not commensurate with his talent or his ability. But, like, name me another example of a guy who's taken a hometown discount in the NFL, in professional sports recently.
I think it's something that fans kind of rationalize in their heads about players that want to be in a certain place. They might want to be in a certain place and playing for Mike Vrabel, but that does not mean they're going to take less than they believe they are worth.
Why? I mean, look at Aaron Rodgers, for example, because Aaron Rodgers is in the news today, right? Aaron Rodgers doesn't need the money. Aaron Rodgers, all he wants is to have some input on roster decisions to make him happy. And now you've got cryptic Instagram posts all over the place. But when it comes to somebody like Aaron Rodgers, players want to be in the position, and few positions have the ability to make franchises move for them the way that the quarterback does, and in particular a quarterback of that kind of talent. But what Harold Landry has the opportunity to do here is to be a franchise-defining player, if by paycheck alone. Because we've seen, countless examples of quality defensive players to above-average defensive players who get big contracts and who aren't able to legitimately change their franchise's fortune because they don't play quarterback. Even J.J. Watt at his height, when he was catching touchdown passes as a tight end, there's only so much J.J. Watt can do when his quarterback is T.J. Yates, Matt Schaub. How many other terrible quarterbacks? Brock Osweiler? How many other terrible quarterbacks have you seen? So Harold can go get the bag wherever he wants, right? Going to be people all over the open market offering him money. And the idea that he would say, let the guy come back for a little less. We've got the better team here. What does Harold Landry care about that? Because your immediate response to that would be, doesn't he care about a Super Bowl? Sure. I'm sure Harold would like to win the Super Bowl. I'm quite certain he would enjoy that experience.
Sounds great.
Sounds great, bud. Sounds like a big time. But you know what happens? Infrequently, but a hell of a lot more frequently than winning the Super Bowl, the opportunity for a player at a premium position to cash the hell in. 615-737-1045. If you want to jump in on the discussion, would you let him walk? Would you tag him? Or would you sign Harold Landry to a new contract and figure it out in future cap hit years? 615-737-1045. I got Buffalo in Westmoreland who wants to chime in. Hello, Buffalo.
You definitely have to settle that member before you go forward building the rest of the team, or so I've heard with Landry.
The number is going to be, going to be a complicated thing because it can vary based on whether you want to just go hard number with the tag or kind of make things flexible on a new contract.
He's the first chip that has to fall. But as far as Aaron Rodgers goes, and most of us Green Bay Packers fans, we're ready to turn the page. If it's Jordan Love or whoever it is, we're ready to turn that page, and we're ready to take that money and put it back into the team. We're ready for the front office to pull their head out of their rear end, and we're ready for a lot of new good things. Y'all have a good day.
Oh, thanks for the call, Buffalo. A frustrated Green Bay Packers fan in Westmoreland, Tennessee. Have you paid attention to this Rodgers thing at all today?
Yeah, it sounds like a Facebook post by a sophomore in high school about a breakup or something.
I am so tired of cryptic social media posts and having to dissect them with great importance.
Let's not do that.
We're not going to, but he does happen to be one of the most important players in the league right now. At least with Kyler Murray, I could kind of brush him off. Just get out of here, little guy. You're not just swat at him a little bit with his, I'm not about this nonsense. No, you're literally about the nonsense. The whole reason we have the nonsense is because you had to delete all your pictures of you in a Cardinals uniform. You brat, right? But with Rodgers, I'm honestly of the opinion, and we'll leave it largely alone after this, because the last thing that I want to do is spend my time on a Tuesday talking about an emo Aaron Rodgers and his cryptic social media posts.
I had to bring him so much glee to see just the meltdown.
He just got, as somebody who is more prone to attention seek than your average person might be, I recognize the behavior. Aaron Rodgers is out here just trying to get people's attention. For what? Leave us alone in your terrible brown corduroy suit that you're winning MVP in. I still can't get over how wretched he looked as the MVP. He's one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the league. He looks like a bum up there in Los Angeles, walking down the red carpet.
What, just because of the long hair?
No, because of the suit, the brown corduroy, wrinkled, grimy-looking suit, and then plus the greasy long hair that makes him look like somebody who I don't want to be disrespectful. I'm not trying to money shame or body shame anybody, but like Aaron Rodgers does not look like a professional quarterback, nor the MVP, the two-time back-to-back MVP of the league. Annoying. 615-737-1045. I just imagine can you imagine how much people would hate Aaron Rodgers if they got him here in Tennessee and he pulled all this crap? Like how much people would lose their minds all for, maybe a conference championship round exit. You finally get Aaron Rodgers, right? The whole, oh my God, he's building a house in not Franklin, but Brentwood. He's building a house in Brentwood. Oh my God, he's coming to the Titans. Oh my God, they actually made the trade. Hypothetical, of course. And then he starts doing all this crap that makes Packers fans insane and wants so badly for Jordan Love to start playing quarterback, even though Jordan Love appears to be terrible at professional quarterback. Quarterbacks with this kind of control over over the franchise and people's emotions, it's not something I think that you want to put up with. Will on Facebook Live says, I think you can find another player who can benefit from the presence of Dupree, Simmons, and Autry. Weaver looked very promising in a small sample size. But again, Lucas, you made that point to me too about Rashad Weaver. And your whole contention with Rashad Weaver was what?
Just that he shouldn't be left out of the conversation considering the Titans' options at a pass rush. I don't think I didn't talk about it in the context of supporting the argument that the Titans should let Harold Landry walk. I just said don't leave him out of the conversation.
I'm not leaving him outright. I'm just saying that what Will says that looked very promising in a small sample size. Okay, one, it is an incredibly small sample size. Two, it's the damn preseason. Like, if you all had your way coming out of the preseason, Mekhi Sargent would have been the backup running back, and Mason Kinsey would have been wide receiver 3. Like, that's what I think of the preseason, okay? And again, Rashad Weaver is a draft pick, a legitimate Power 5 player out of college, somebody who at the Senior Bowl performed well, has a ton of versatility, can legitimately give your defense something. And by the way, like, you can get some pass rush help in this draft if you so choose, and find a more cost-effective way to get younger players to work off the 3 vets that you already have up front and younger players that you have to kind of mix things up. I just think people are so scared, and I feel like we go through this every year, right? Oh no, how can I live without player X? Even as player X has been a good player for you. And in Harold's case, a much better quality and caliber player than Corey Davis. Nobody's disputing that. Than Adoree Jackson. Jack Conklin was a good player and continues to be a good player when he's healthy for Cleveland, but you could not afford to pay that kind of money for a right tackle. Hell, that's the conversation. People are losing their minds in places like Indianapolis because they're talking about paying Quentin Nelson, a left guard, $20+ million a year. Can you name me, any of you listening out there, Lucas, the callers, anybody out there, can you name me a left guard on the Super Bowl team, on the Super Bowl winning team this year?
No.
Liam Neeson. A reemergence. We haven't heard from Liam Neeson.
Popped in the studio. I haven't heard from him in a while.
What the hell?
I see Liam. Seen a couple months.
He was hibernating all football season. You know why? It's because he's got a new movie that looks like what's the damn movie?
Taken.
Taken.
Yeah, it's just another.
He's got another movie that looks like Taken out.
Another rendition of
Liam Neeson. Are you at all at the age? I mean, he's got to be in his mid-60s, right?
Oh yeah.
All right, let's do this. Liam Neeson, at the age of 69 years old.
Nice.
Should anybody still be looking to you as one of our preeminent action movie stars?
Yes.
Whoa.
Well, you asked him. What do you think he's going to say?
Well, I would ask him to be rational. I would ask him to be reasonable about the whole situation. Do you have any idea what this movie is called? We're now doing just basically free promotion for Liam Neeson's terrible action movie.
Oh no! And I was with Megan over the weekend, and we were like, yeah, maybe we'll go see a movie because we're in Birmingham. There's not much to do in Birmingham, and it was, Liam Neeson's got an action movie out. Terrible reviews, just horrible. And we just ended up not going to the movies.
It's called Blacklight.
Yeah. It's always just one word, like one cryptic word.
Taken.
Blacklight.
Well, Blacklight is kind of
Dangerous.
mixing it up because at least that's 2 syllables, right? Well, I guess Taken is 2 syllables too. But Blacklight. 2022, Liam Neeson at 69 years old. I mean, we're not even making action stars anymore. Like, the action stars are still Bruce Willis and Liam Neeson in their 60s. I don't understand why we can't make good comedies. We can't make good action movies. All I'm getting is remakes of Aladdin, like the live action Aladdin movie. I don't want that. I don't want Will Smith as the genie. Get that out of here. Do not anyway. We have time for this.
Just spinning wheels.
I'm legitimately passionate about that. 615-737-1045. Bill Hayes says, don't be ripping on my corduroy brown jacket either. No, it's a bad look. Well, at least if you don't iron it on the stage where you know there's going to be high-definition cameras like Aaron Rodgers
As
did.
someone who doesn't own an iron, I support you, Aaron Rodgers.
I don't understand. How? Yours 26.
I own a steamer.
But you don't use the steamer.
Yeah, it takes too much effort to use
Right? So, like, you're coming in here.
I should use the steamer.
You forget that I see you almost every day, that I'm aware of what you wear to work. You don't use your steamer. Stop trying to derail me from contract talk. The projections right now for Harold Landry on a multi-year extension. Well, a multi-year contract, because, again, not an extension. And, again, all of these are just projections right now based on the players that got similar kind of contracts at the same kind of a position. You've got, in the last calendar year, players that signed contracts as edge rushers. TJ Watt, 4 years, $112 million. Joey Bosa, 5 years, $135 million. Shaq Barrett, 4 years, $68. Bud Dupree, $82.5. All of those guys. At the top end, TJ Watt is making an average annual salary of $28 million a year. Now, he is also Defensive Player of the Year caliber, All-Pro caliber, continues to produce no matter who you run out there next to him. And the Titans don't have a TJ Watt, right? Unless you think Jeff Simmons is that player. We've heard from far too many smart NFL people about the kind of disruptor that Jeff Simmons is in the middle of that defense. Can you not find someone, maybe of lesser talent, maybe longer in the tooth if you're choosing to sign a veteran in free agency to help bolster your pass rush, maybe a younger player, understanding you don't have a second-round pick. There are going to be some options in the first round that you could get at 26, or if you decide to trade up, there's already teams moving around in the first round and exploring the possibility of that. But if you're looking at that kind of money, I mean, the projection right now on SpotTrack is 4 years, 68.4. That's an average annual value for Harold Landry of $17.1 million a year. It would make him the seventh highest paid linebacker in all of football. I think that you can find some kind of competent replacement for Harold Landry. That may sound blasphemous. That may sound completely outrageous for people who are looking at this and saying, why would you, after so many years of talking about need pass rush help, need guys off the edge, need elite players at that position, why would you so easily just let one of those guys walk? And my question to you would be, is Harold Landry elite in and of himself? Or does the defense and the three veteran players who Harold Landry played with last year, does that not help Harold Landry maximize his potential as a player? I think that's something that Titans fans have to think about when they're discussing amongst themselves and in, bars with your buddies or wherever it is that you're talking about sports right now as we get closer to the combine, free agency, the NFL draft, and everything in between, what you're willing to sacrifice by keeping a player at that kind of price point when you think you've got enough to help somebody else give you similar, if not the same kind of high-level production. We'll do winners and losers of the sports weekend when we come back. Lucas and I have a couple of nominees. If you want to nominate somebody, you can. 615-737-1045. But before we do winners and losers of the sports weekend, I got to tell you, we're headed to the Combine, thanks to Scoreboard Bar and Grill. Tune in as my show, The Buck Reising Show, broadcast live from the 2022 NFL Combine in Indianapolis, March 1st through the 4th. You can listen in as I report live and host special guests each day from the Combine, thanks to Scoreboard Bar and Grill. Scoreboard, football, great food, live music, and booze. For more info, visit 1045thezone.com. Nasty weather here in Middle Tennessee on this Tuesday, but that's all right. We're having fun today. Welcome back to the show. Buck Reising here with you until 1 o'clock. 615-737-1045. We got winners and losers we'll do here in just a second, but we got some calls to get to in the meantime. Sam calling us from ATL. What's going on, Sam? Good morning.
Yeah, I was calling in because I was having a thought in regards to the Titans. I don't understand possibly why they don't use the Rams model as far as using the first round picks maybe for proven players. That way, you're getting a proven player. And, I understand you're giving up a first round pick, but you're getting a proven player in the return. And then for Harold Landry, you could really do the tag and trade option. That way you could possibly get some of those draft picks back. There's ways.
Well, let me push back quickly, Sam, if you don't mind. Hang with me. The player that they gave up the first round picks for, they traded for Jalen Ramsey. They traded for Matt Stafford. But, when you say the Rams model, they got Von Miller, basically bargain basement, and they got Odell because the Browns cut him. I understand what you're saying model-wise, but, it's as much luck and good timing in the window that they were in, and also having a trade partner like Detroit. I don't know that that's a replicable model. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I could understand. I just mean, just maybe if you're trying to get proven players or some players, that are proven commodities, maybe, consider giving up those first round picks to do that as opposed to maybe, cashing in or cashing out on a first round pick that you don't know if it's going to turn in.
Yeah, I appreciate the call, Sam. 615-737-1045. You can jump in if you like. That's kind of what they did, right? Isn't that what Julio's supposed to be? Isn't that trading high draft picks for proven commodities? You kind of got that, right? That was the whole thing. That was a part of you didn't have to give up high round draft picks for Jadeveon Clowney, but you kind of tried the all-in thing in paying Bud and trading for Julio, and now you're in a situation where the Julio thing didn't work out, and maybe you're saying, all right, more. Again, most teams like the Rams aren't going to be able to – you're not going to be able to get a Pro Bowl caliber receiver like Odell Beckham Jr. for $300,000 cash. And a good portion of that, by the way, in crypto because of the way that he structured his contract. I don't know what the model is that makes the most sense. I know that each team has to explore this kind of roster construction based on where they are. And I don't know that the Rams situation exactly mirrors the Tennessee Titans. But I understand your point in principle. In the meantime, we got to open up the circus tent. We got to do winners and losers of the sports weekend. No more football weekend, only sports. Circus tent is open. Trapdoor, who went down it this week? Winners and losers of the sports weekend. Now, I don't know who that was that just went down the trapdoor, but certainly there are going to be some people that had a tough time this weekend. Winner of the sports weekend, and this was a cool story that I saw courtesy of the Wall Street Journal this morning. The U.S. Soccer Federation and dozens of members of the women's national team who sued it for gender discrimination reached a $24 million settlement agreement. The deal reached by the Federation of the players who sued it for discrimination is contingent on a new team collective bargaining agreement, but still, this has been something that the United States women's national team has been fighting for ceaselessly. They are by far and away, is the women's team, the women's national team, not more popular than the men? Well, I don't know. Polarizing is probably the word to use. They're definitely more polarizing than the men's team. But I would say there's almost greater national pride in the women's team than there is the men because the women win.
Yeah, they've won multiple World Cups, Olympic gold medals.
The proposed deal calls for U.S. Soccer to pay $22 million to the class, which includes 61 women, plus $2 million into a fund that those players can access for post-career goals and charitable efforts in women's and girls soccer. Each player will be able to apply for up to $50,000 from the fund. It's still pennies, frankly, but at least it's some admitting by the U.S. Soccer Federation that the pay disparity between the team that is infinitely more popular, better at their sport, and does bring eyeballs over the men's team is finally seeing some kind of pay equity. Winners of the sports weekend, the U.S. women's soccer players.
My winner of the weekend is a bear. His name is Hank the Tank, and this is how you know it's the offseason. A black bear, this is from the New York Times, known as Hank the Tank, has broken into more than 24 California homes since July, officials say. Paintballs, beanbags, sirens, and tasers cannot keep the 500-pound animal from seeking leftover pizza and other food. Hank the Tank said, "To hell with hibernation. I want my pizza." This is my absolute favorite part of the excerpt from the New York Times article.
He's like a fugitive from the law right now.
Oh, yeah. It's amazing. They can't catch him. If you look at a footprint of his, it's like twice the size of a human footprint. I just retweeted it on my Twitter account, @LucasPanzika. He is remarkable to look at. This excerpt from the New York Times. The residents are quick to point out that Hank is gentle and sweet. When he breaks into a home, he is far more interested in the food than any people who may be inside.
Sure.
This quote, "He just sits there and eats. He doesn't attack them. He doesn't growl. He doesn't make rude faces." I love him. I love Hank the Tank. You keep doing you, Hank. Don't let him catch you. Keep eating that pizza. Hank the Tank is my winner of the weekend.
Cronky in the Twitch chat just says, "We're going streaking." Hank the Tank.
I think that's Frank the Tank, but I get the concept.
Well, the bear doesn't need to streak. It's already in the nude, is it not? While it sits there making not rude faces while it eats you out of house, literally out of house and home.
Well, he's not in the nude, because I don't know if you've seen a naked bear without fur. It's a terrifying thing to look at. So he's not necessarily that, but he is my winner of the weekend. I adore him. What does a rude face look like from a black bear?
I imagine it has something to do with teeth.
Well, no rude faces from Hank the Tank. He just wants his pizza.
One would assume. Loser of the sports weekend. Now, there are many, and V-Love has tweeted us about one that I need to talk about at some point, Andy Agar. With the whole situation there. But Medina Spirit, for those of you who pay attention to horse racing, Medina Spirit, as of yesterday, is no longer the winner of the 2021 Kentucky Derby. And unfortunately, it passed away, Medina Spirit did. Died unexpectedly in December, but was officially disqualified by Kentucky racing officials on Monday for failing a drug test after winning the race. It's only the third horse in 147 years to receive such a penalty after finishing first. So that means that the owner is out $1.8 million, which is what the first place check came by, and it was never paid out. Now we'll go to the owner of another horse who finished second, but also owned by Prince Khalid bin Abdullah of Saudi Arabia, who also died last year. So a lot of mysterious deaths happening in the sport of horse racing. But Medina Spirit, RIP, no longer the winner of the 2021 Kentucky Derby.
My loser of the weekend is the entirety of college football outside of the good people that reside in Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
The whole sport?
The entire sport. Now, I'm not talking about you people that like to watch Kentucky basketball and Yankees baseball and say you're an Alabama football fan.
He said you people.
You know who you are. I'm talking about the people of Tuscaloosa, Alabama. They are the winners. The rest of college football are the losers, because Nick Saban recently, at the ripe age of 70 years old, said in a speech towards, I believe, local high school coaches in Alabama, "Everybody asked me when I want to retire. Retire from what? I'm going to jump into an empty abyss? Of what am I going to do?" I love that I is in the transcript. Because the very challenges that I talk about and the things in our profession that concern me, for you and for me both, in your game and our game, that's what keeps me going. That's why I get up every day. That's why I can't sleep at night sometimes. So why would you quit doing that? I haven't figured that one out yet.
Unbelievable. Winners and losers of the sports weekend. When we come back, some questions that we're getting on Julio Jones and one NFL free agent you should expect the Titans to be linked to this offseason. We'll get to that on the other side. If you want to jump in, you can do that. 615-737-1045. I'm Buck Reising. This is 1045 The Zone.
It is 11:01. Good morning. I'm Lucas Panzica. Potentially bad news for Atlanta Braves fans. ESPN's Buster Olney reporting that there is a growing belief that first baseman Freddie Freeman could land elsewhere due to a standoff in negotiations with the Braves. Michigan basketball coach Juwan Howard has been suspended 5 games and fined $40,000 for hitting a Wisconsin assistant in an altercation during the post-game handshake following Michigan's loss to Wisconsin on Sunday. The suspension will carry through the end of the regular season. Howard released a statement apologizing for the incident on Monday. 2 Michigan players and a Wisconsin player also suspended for 1 game each, and Wisconsin head coach Greg Gard fined $10,000. The NFL has altered its COVID policies for the Combine next week in Indianapolis amid talks of a boycott by prospects. The league will now not require masks and will allow approved medical support personnel to interact with prospects in secure areas. The Combine is set to run from March 1st through the 7th in Indianapolis. Slight update in the case of Houston Texans quarterback Deshaun Watson. As a Houston judge ruled Monday, Watson can face questions under oath in some of the 22 civil cases filed against him by women alleging harassment and sexual assault during massage sessions. Watson's attorney said a decision on whether or not Watson will be criminally charged will likely come by April 1st. He also had a motion denied to delay Watson's deposition until after that April 1st date. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once in your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Hour number 2, welcome in or welcome back if you've been kicking it with us so far this morning. Happy to have you guys in for the show. Buck Reising here with you until 1 o'clock. Lucas Panzica is making it happen behind the scenes. Get you guys involved if you want. 615-737-1045. You can do that. 615-737-1045 is the number to call. Talked a lot about franchise tag window opening up today, how feasible it is to tag Harold Landry. We'll get some, I don't know if I want to call it professional opinion on this coming up next, but Mike Giardi of the NFL Network is going to join us. I have some things to yell at him about because he's citing my Harold Landry report on the NFL Network. He's texting me yesterday for info that he's got or that info that he needs on a Taylor Lewan report coming up. So I want to know why I'm not doing Giardi's NFL Network hits for him. We'll yell at Mike in about 16 minutes from now. But in the meantime, want to talk about an NFL free agent that you should expect the Titans to be linked to throughout the course of this offseason. Now, this was a player that they were reported to be in on as far as the trade market was concerned last season. In fact, if you'll remember, there was a report from Bleacher Report, Maurice Morton, that the Titans were, this was like 8 months ago, that the Titans were among the favorites, if not the favorite, to land tight end Zach Ertz. Now, Zach Ertz was traded from the Eagles to the Arizona Cardinals this year. He had varying degrees of success. He ended up with over 600 yards. He had over 700 yards, 763 yards, 74 receptions, 5 touchdowns, and he played in all 17 games, both with Philadelphia and with Arizona. 31 years old is Zach Ertz, and now he's an unrestricted free agent. With the tight end position, there is going to be many layers to this. I would expect them to sign a veteran. I mean, they're going to have to do a fair amount of legwork on that tight end room because, again, as you'll remember, Ferkser, Pruitt, and Swaim, all unrestricted free agents this year. Maybe you bring back one of the 3, given that they're not going to cost you a ton of money. I think that you are going to see them continue to be connected to Zach Ertz throughout the course of this process because he provides them something that they desperately need. Proven commodity, maybe not at the height of his powers anymore, still reliable, still consistent, still can offer you that security that you just simply did not have for your quarterback last year. Now, it's not going to be like Zach Ertz if they were to sign him. Signing Zach Ertz in free agency this year to help with your tight end group is not going to be the only move that helps get this offense back on track. But if you bring back one of the three, Ferks or Pruitt or Swaim, you sign Ertz to a relatively inexpensive veteran free agent deal, and you draft a player at that position, probably in the 3rd or 4th round this year, given the amount of depth that's there, I think you're in a much improved position from where you were a calendar year ago when we all knew that this was probably going to become an issue. Now they're talking about franchise tag candidates right now on SportsCenter. I've got it on in the studio, and Harold Landry is currently being discussed as one of the players who makes a ton of sense for the tag. I would be really surprised. Again, the window has just opened, and so there will be time for them to negotiate. There will be time for the team to decide whether it's in their best interest to tag Harold if they choose to do that in like they did with Derrick Henry and pursue longer-term extension talks while also having him under team control. They may choose to do something like that. I would be, as we sit here today, though, on February the 22nd, I would be surprised to see the tag be the solution for the Tennessee Titans and Harold Landry, one way or the other. But Zach Ertz, I think, is going to be a player that is going to continue to pop up in these conversations. Expect there to be significant interest in his services from the Tennessee Titans as we enter free agency and get closer to the period when teams can start legally tampering, which is one of the most ridiculous phrases in all of sports. 615-737-1045. Bam is in Nashville, wants to chime in on this Tuesday. Hello, Bam.
Yo, what up? How you feeling, bro?
I'm good, boss. What you got?
Yo, first off, I think Zach would be a perfect fit for what it is that we would need in a tight end. A tight end. He did an awesome job in Arizona this year. You know what I'm saying? Like, as far as making sure keeping drives alive with first down, just the extra, those extra 10 or 15 yards that you need or making clutch plays. He did that for Kyler Murray and them this year. So, and we know, Tannehill's go-to man was Jonnu Smith. You know what I'm saying? Like that was something that would provide Tannehill a lot more, of a security blanket, as you said. I think that's a move we need to make. But what I initially was calling for was I'm not ready to really give up on Julio Jones yet. And the reason I'm saying that is because towards the end of the year, when he started, when he was actually somewhat healthy, the boy was starting to produce, man. I think with him and Tannehill having a lot more time together, I think their chemistry could be a lot more cohesive, almost as good as him and AJ, because like I said, he was making catches. He was pulling yards. So I'm not really ready to say he was a bust yet. I think we need to actually give him this year to see what his production level is and what it can be. And then we can kind of make it a better assessment from there. But I still think he got something left in the tank and he has something to prove. That's your opinion. You can rebut it, but, I'm listening to what you got to say about it.
Thanks for the call, Bam. I mean, the Julio thing, this is the year, right? One way or the other. Like, it doesn't matter what you felt about him coming into last season and as opposed to him coming into this season and understanding the personnel and understanding the quarterback and all these different things. Like the Julio Jones experiment, it ends after this season. Julio! What, are you just hitting it now for funsies? You bored
That's
back
every
there?
time he comes up.
Every time?
Yeah.
You mean every time? You mean to tell me that every time I say the name Julio Jones, A.J. Brown's going to shout me down? So I went to look up, by the way, third down receptions, who at least in the top 20, Zach Ertz is not in this category, but, unsurprisingly, A.J. Brown is. He was tied for 20th among qualified receivers and tight ends, and I guess running backs, if you want to include them in this situation. But he had 15 receptions on third down alone, which was, again, tied for 20th in the league. Zach Ertz did not qualify in the top 20 at this point. But Zach Ertz is still reliable. And, again, I'm not even, is it weird to say that I'm like Julio Jones is the furthest thing from my mind right now? I'm not, anything that you get from him is going to be a pleasant surprise, which is a ridiculous thing to say of a Hall of Fame caliber player that's just kind of chilling on your roster. But I'm not even factoring in Julio as a big part of the equation next year. Like I'm looking at AJ, Derek, core pieces that you need to continue to build around. Julio's going to be there. Julio can contribute. I don't disagree with Bam that Julio Jones is going to be able to give you a little more juice than what you got out of him this year. I have no way of knowing if that's going to be so. I have no way of knowing if his body's going to hold up. It's going to be one of the more interesting storylines of next season. But regardless of how it goes or what your expectations are or whether you think he'll perform better this year as opposed to last year, it ends. It ends after 2022. You would like to get out from under that contract as quickly as humanly possible. The only reason you're not doing it this year, and it remains to be seen, but it is fair to assume that they are not going to get rid of him this year, is because your cap savings would be, just in the ballpark of $1 million. Nothing substantial enough for you to further deplete your wide receiving core, given the fact that both Marcus Johnson and Chester Rodgers are also unrestricted free agents this year. When we come back, we're going to talk with Mike Giardi of the NFL Network. He's been doing some work on Harold Landry and Taylor Lewan. I'm going to yell at him about stealing my work without credit. Giardi joins us next.
Hey, Rocket, what's my mortgage rate? Rocket, when am I closing? Is anyone there? Rockets are really cool, but they don't speak mortgage. You need a home loan expert for that. Get pre-approved for your next mortgage at thehomeloanexpert.com.
All right. There's no reason for us to have Mike Giardi of the NFL Network on today in the offseason other than I want to yell at him. Joins us now on 104.5 The Zone. At Mike Giardi is where you can find him. What are you doing texting me about Taylor Lewan and Harold Landry? Should I just do all of your NFL Network reporting for you? What do you want?
That is so false. I mean, I was texting you, and I do enjoy it. Sometimes I forget that you're actually quote unquote working. So I like to text you and try to distract you while you're doing these things.
Buddy, it's impossible. Have you heard the kind of phone calls that I get? There is nothing that can derail me from doing this radio show that is allegedly work.
What's the big take happening right now? What are the fans? What do they want? What's happening?
Oh, well, yesterday, Lucas, do we have Charlie's call? Can we play that for Giardi? I don't know if we, Charlie and Franklin, I'm going to send Lucas, he hates when I do this, I'm going to send him scrambling for some audio.
Nice job.
That it's impossible for him to find. Of course, he's sitting there shaking.
This is why Lucas hates you.
It's
one of many reasons why Lucas hates you.
It's among many. Can you imagine having to work with me for 4 hours at least a day?
It's why I keep him off balance, Mike. Find the perfect moment to strike.
There you go.
But yeah,
Lucas is out thinking you right there.
They're pissed at me because or at least some contingent of them are pissed at me because they say I'm talking too much about the NFL when there's no football, and I'm looking around at baseball locked out for 82 days and the NBA All-Star break. And, you know, what am I supposed to do, Mike? What am I supposed to do? I don't know what they want me to talk about.
Talk about your NBA? Oh, right.
Yeah.
No, Memphis, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess.
I guess there's always hockey, but I don't know. We'll see how desperate I get. You're doing a lot of talking about the Titans on television. Why?
Because they're in a position where obviously they were the number 1 seed and it did not go the way they had hoped in the postseason. And I think there's a lot of eyes on them. Are they going to be able to take that next step, or are they about to fall back? I think that there's some questions about, a bunch of different things from a contractual standpoint with some of the players that you mentioned earlier, and obviously with the quarterback who, came up small in a big playoff game.
I mean, it is a pretty interesting situation that they find themselves in because, of course, as the audience knows and as you know, the window for franchise tagging players comes open today, Harold Landry being chief among them. Their biggest advantage right now, Mike, is that pass rush. And they, as every team who has success and every unit that has success, they're going to be standout players who are in contract years. And Harold has the potential to come back. They can afford to pay him, if nobody else, if they pay him, and keep this thing together, which honestly I think is their best shot at a legitimate Super Bowl.
I do too, and I hate the idea. You kind of waited for Harold's had moments, obviously, in the previous few seasons, but it all comes together for him this past year. He's one of your own. You draft, developed. Like, that's a good message to send to the rest of the guys in the organization. Hey, if you play to the level that we expect you, that at the end of your contract, we're going to be willing to go the extra mile for you. And I think he's an important guy. I mean, look, their defensive line was awesome last year. After how many years did we talk about the lack of pass rush? And then there were times where they just dominated football games, including, quite frankly, they dominated a playoff game, and their offense only managed 16 points. So.
Yeah, I was there for that. It was a tough scene. It's that
was not great. Great.
It was a roller coaster ride the Monday after, but since then it's just been kind of a boiling rage. I don't know what stage of grieving Titans fans are currently still in, but when last I checked in, it was just outright anger. Mike Giardi of the NFL Network here with us on 104.5 The Zone. So what do you think makes the most sense for them, Mike, when you look at the situation? I know you were analyzing cap casualty potentials for NFL Network. I know that there were a couple of names that came up. What do you think makes the most sense with some of these premier players that they have to make difficult decisions on?
Well, I prefaced the first one, Rodgers saying I think he's still a really good player, but at 33, with the kind of money you're going to be paying him. And, he dealt with some physical issues last year. And, look, he played 15 of the 17 regular season games. So it wasn't like it kept him out of too much football. But, you have to start to wonder, is this the beginning of where physically he doesn't bounce back? And that'd be an area where, of course, you could save some money. You mentioned, I'm going to give you credit. I'm going to tip your hat. Jack Rabbit Jenkins is an interesting one because in Molden, in Fulton, and then in New Hope and Caleb Farley, you have young corners under team control. Do you want to pay, I think Jack Rabbit's 34, do you want to pay him $10 million next year? It doesn't seem like that's the best course of action for them. And that'll help, again, create some more money for you if you want to keep Landry and maybe a couple of your other guys. But it is going to be hard, I think, for them to really delve deep into free agency just based on some of the deals that they've already signed and obviously, once again, with eyes on Landry.
Well, that's lovely of you to give me credit for the Jackrabbit Jenkins thing. Lucas, do we have the audio of Giardi's Harold Landry report where he betrayed me since he's a traitor? Go ahead and play that, please.
Yeah, Omar, did he ever? 12 sacks, 22 pressures last year. Dude hasn't missed a start in the last 3 seasons and played through some stuff in the second half of the season and then was uber productive in the playoff game against the Bengals. Here's the deal, though. There's a report surrounding Landry that says he wants to be the highest paid guy in the Titans meeting room that he's in. Well, that means being higher paid than Bud Dupree. Dupree signed a 5-year, $82.5 million contract last offseason. So Landry's looking for about 17 per. Be really interesting to see if the Titans can go to that number or want to go to that number just based on some of their other needs. Certainly one to watch. And if Landry does hit the open market, there are going to be a lot of suitors lined up to pay him.
Yeah, no question about
it. That's from the NFL Network. Whose report, Trader? No. Whose report?
In my defense, I couldn't remember who said it. I read a lot of stuff.
I don't normally get upset about that.
Too? I don't even know that you trumpeted it like that. That's one of those things where, knowing you would have retweeted it 57 times.
Well, you know that I'm just constantly trying to grab for more attention at any given point. And you're right. I try not to do that with reporting. And the only reason that I'm doing it now is because it's you and because I watched that. And I'm like, I'm going to retweet him anyway, but I'm going to get him back for this. I don't know why but it didn't actually bother me, but it made me laugh out loud because I thought you did it on purpose.
I didn't. I wish I did now in retrospect. So I'm going to keep an eye on your feed and see if I can not credit you for something else.
I'll say, you put the show on notifications. I'll send you a tweet every time we get a crazy caller. What are you doing right now? Are you camped outside of Tom Brady's home trying to figure out if he's going to unretire or not? What's the network have you doing?
I mean, that was just, that whole thing is absurd. And now you have Aaron Rodgers. It's like they're trying to one-up each other. Like, who can say more vague things and hint at this, that, or the other thing, and then turn around and call the media stupid? It's just his whole retirement thing was butchered. And, now this information coming out about his distaste for Arians, it's something we talked about a little bit. It's real, and he didn't close the door. And now we got to deal with Rodgers, and he's a half an hour, 45 minutes away from making his radio appearance. And I can't wait to hear him insult all of us dummies while he says it has nothing to do with anything. I don't know. I don't know what he's going to do.
Meanwhile, Pat McAfee and his boys are just licking their chops because they saw that passive-aggressive Instagram post come out last night, and they knew they had the Aaron Rodgers exclusive today. That's actually going to be pretty interesting to see that play out. Why are they being like this, Mike? Like, why are these veteran quarterbacks, two of the greatest of all time, Rodgers and Brady, do they enjoy this, what they're doing on the internet? Because they have to get something out of the attention that they get from causing problems and creating this stir where they can just turn it back around on media, like you said, and call us all idiots and dummies.
Attention horse. Right? That's what it is. They love it. They love being in this spotlight. Like, I'm gonna be happy when I walk away and I don't have to deal with you guys anymore. No, you're not. You like this. You like all of it. You like all the attention. You love the social media posts. You love it all. The good, the bad, the ugly. You love it.
It's Mike Giardi of the NFL Network here with us. At Mike Giardi is where you can follow him. Gut feeling, and I would call your opinion an informed opinion if I wanted to give you actual credit, which I'm loath to do. Do you think that Tom Brady unretires?
I do.
You do?
I do.
Oh God.
Yeah, I put it at like 55%.
Oh no.
If he comes back. Hey, someone pointed out to me, like, if you look at the quote-unquote retirement post that he had, all that retirement post basically was a goodbye to Tampa.
Yeah, I know. I saw you getting outraged on behalf of Boston because he mentioned none of the people with the Patriots, none of the fans, none of the ownership, nobody. It was hilarious.
I mean, that was pretty low budget, and then the Brady Bobos come to his defense and say, like, oh, what did he say 2 years ago? Okay, he didn't retire 2 years ago. If he truly was retiring and he decides to not thank Kraft, Belichick, all the people in the organization that helped him along the way, like, yeah, that's pretty low budget, pretty low budget.
Mike, do you understand the fact that you just said this in Nashville? My mentions are about to be peppered with Tom Brady to the Titans. Again,
that is a phenomenal side benefit to something. And I wasn't thinking that far ahead. But good luck, buddy. Good luck.
Get the hell out of here. Are you on TV at all today?
I am all day today.
Okay.
All day tomorrow. Yeah.
NFL Network for all of his great work on the Titans and every other NFL team that he's covering right now. Giardi just can't, an attention whore unto himself. It's the offseason. Mike Giardi can't get off the camera. Thank you, buddy.
All right, see ya. Later.
Oh, God. He just said that as casually as anything. He thinks that Tom Brady's going to unretire. Can you imagine?
Yes, I very much can. It's not, this crazy foreign concept, right?
I don't want to do this again. Nobody gets to see them basically eulogized in real time at the height of your profession. Nobody gets that. Brady has that, even if he didn't get to retire the way he wants to retire, and maybe there's this bleeped up part of his brain that just says, no, I'm going to do it on my terms. Damn you, Adam Schefter and Jeff Darlington. You're not going to take this from me. This is my game, my sport, and you guys are going to play it my way, right? Just the same as when he's getting his ass kicked by the Saints and he's mother bleeping Sean Payton on the sidelines because he's kind of a brat when he doesn't get his way.
Can it not also be that he just can't stay away? I mean, it took him 3 days. 3 days after he officially announced his retirement to say, oh, well, never say never, right? I mean, for anybody else in that moment, you're saying, no, I'm retired. The statement was what the statement was. I am retired. I'm not coming back. But it took him less than a week to come out and say, you never say never.
It makes my head hurt to think about the idea that Tom Brady legitimately could unretire.
At this point, I want him to. I want him to play until he's 50.
Well, yeah, because we're in the sports news business. We would people are pissed at us talking NFL now. It would entirely go out the window if Tom Brady unretired.
Even besides all of that, even before he announced his retirement, I wanted him to play until 50 just to kind of sit back and continue marveling at what he's doing. He should have been the MVP this year, right? I mean, there's a very strong case for that.
I mean, only because Rodgers missed a game because he wasn't vaccinated.
And his numbers were much better.
The numbers were great, but I think on face value, you would say that Aaron Rodgers played the position of quarterback at a higher level overall than Tom Brady did this year, even though Tom Brady's last touchdown pass is him just scorching Jalen Ramsey, one of the best corners in football, with just a beautiful rainbow bomb to Mike Evans in a playoff game. But here's my thing. I appreciated Brady leaving now because he's still the best. I don't want to see Tom Brady fall apart. I think it is such a rare thing. It's why I found the McVay, Aaron Donald, could they both leave the sport, take some time away, in the case of Donald, potentially retire from the NFL after the Super Bowl, because I'm fascinated by the idea that football and just professional athletes in general, coaches as well, especially now that we're paying $17 million a year for coaches as analysts on network television. Shout out Tony Romo for raising the bar for all of us. I think it's so interesting to consider that these guys would have outside interests other than the thing that is giving them the initial platform, and then taking and doing more with it, right? John Madden is the original example of this, a coach leaving at the peak of his powers, going into broadcasting, making all the correct moves at the right time in his career. McVay was 4 years younger, won the Super Bowl, 4 years younger than Madden was when he left coaching, and McVay is not, it doesn't seem like that's going to happen. But with Brady, he left me wanting more of Tom Brady.
Right.
You never get that.
And 5 years ago, nobody would be saying that.
I thought he was washed a decade ago. He's had a whole nother Hall of Fame career since then. Since I thought he was dead.
That's why I want him to keep going. I don't want to see him fall apart either. But I want to know, can he do it at 45 and then at 46 and then at 47? Like, I want to find out, is there ever a stopping point with this guy? I want to know.
I can't go back through that experience.
NFC South fans don't want to know.
See, because it's already started. T-Bull22 on Twitter. So Brady and Vrabel back together?
Oh, Jesus. Okay, well, that's that we can try and avoid.
Caleb Farley, help me, please. Please.
Yeah, I rebuke that in the name of Jesus.
In the name of Jesus. Football Jesus, I rebuke that. I cannot have it. I cannot have a conversation where the biggest talking points of the NFL offseason are Aaron Rodgers' Instagram posts and Tom Brady taking passive-aggressive shots on a podcast with Jim Gray at Bruce Arians because he don't want it to go that way. 615-737-1045. Should I do it? Should I say, do you want Tom Brady to the Titans? Should I do it? No, I'm not.
Please don't.
I don't want to live that way. Brad Dozier, Tom Brady to the Colts? ? I hate it. I don't want this in my life.
I think a lot of people will change their tune pretty quick if that started to come up. No, stay retired.
It's done. You don't need to go to Indianapolis. They can't. I mean,
it's not funny anymore.
Well, listen, with the Colts' track record in recent history of quarterbacks, like that may be the place that Brady just falls off a cliff. Wouldn't that be justice? If Tom Brady, the most dominant quarterback in the AFC for 20 plus years. Well, I guess for 20 years because he spent the last 2 in the NFC. If Tom Brady spends 2 decades dominating the AFC, goes to your greatest division rival, and that's when Tom Brady starts to suck. I mean, do you want to react to the news? 615-737-1045. Mike Giardi, who's based in Boston, who was talking to Tom Brady's dad throughout the course of this retirement ridiculousness about, at the beginning of the month, it sounds like he fully expects Tom Brady to unretire, which would be just an unholy mess. Wayne is in Dixon, wants to start us off. Hello, Wayne.
Hey, man, I just wanted to say Tom Brady's the Chuck Norris of football.
You can't stop him.
I think he could go forever.
I mean, he gave us precious, again, MVP caliber player this year. Aaron Rodgers was the first overall seed. Even though his team didn't have playoff success like the regular season, Aaron Rodgers did more than Tom Brady did, even if Brady's numbers were better. And Brady continued to just school people at 44 years old. At some point it has to stop. But did you notice anything obvious that Tom Brady couldn't do this year that he could do in any other year?
No. If anything, he was running the ball more than he usually did.
Oh, my God. All the third down conversions that he's running for. And he's popping up after a third down. He's holding up the finger for the first down. He's smiling. What?
It appears more nimble than he was at 25.
It's infuriating.
It makes no sense.
You know why I hate this? Because I fear it. For the same reason that Buckethead just tweeted us. Quote, Brady off the retirement list is the new Butler off IR. It's the 7th circle of hell for me. It's all of these things coming to fruition at the least optimal time when there's nothing in football to talk about other than whether the combine's going to be in a bubble or not. Speaking of things that are untenable, Darrington is on the line. What's up?
Hey, buddy, how's it going?
It was going better. It was going better about 20 minutes ago before Giardi had to light a fire into my show today.
What, you talking about Tom Brady and Aaron Donald coming to the Titans next year?
That's right.
Would that be a fire?
That's right.
No. I was just saying, okay. Just real quick, though. Tom Brady, you brought that up. Brett Favre done it. Don't he get the right to do it, too? Y'all keep praising this man as the GOAT, which I think he's okay. He's decent. He's good. I don't put him up there. I don't think he could have played in Joe Montana's era.
Wait. You don't think Tom Brady's the greatest quarterback of all time?
Respectfully, no.
Oh, my God.
Hold up. Time out. Hold up.
No. You don't. No. Hold up. No timeout. That is the most ridiculous. You have said some utterly ridiculous stuff in the nearly year that this show has been on the air.
We had an 8-year-old child with this take yesterday.
You and an 8-year-old calling into the show think Tom Brady is not the greatest. Put some respect on Gerald's name, but it's you and the 8-year-old calling us yesterday.
hold on. Now, if I'm not mistaken, this man out of his own word, out of his own mouth came out and said that he's been able to manipulate the game because they changed the rules for him. That wouldn't have flew back then. That ACL he got back then
Oh, my
would have
God.
been his head. I'm just saying. Anyway, I just feel like he earned the right to be able to do what he wants to do now. Aaron Rodgers, he's on that same plateau. Why not? That's Green Bay quarterback for you. Let them do what they're going to do. Plus, he said he was forced into making the decision. Let him have his time. Ain't nothing else happening. What, the Titans, Ryan Tannehill? Anyway, that's all I had. And just in case anybody forgot, Georgia won the championship, Alabama. We out of here.
Get out of here. What is wrong with him? He exists just to piss people off, I'm convinced. Tom Brady, not the great. It really is. It is so fitting that Darrington and an 8-year-old have the same opinion about the greatest quarterback of all time. It's poetic justice.
Like, even Tennessee fans, as strong-willed as they can be, as convicted as they can be, have had to back off on that argument, right, when it comes to Peyton and Brady.
Oh, there's no question.
No question.
It's not even Peyton and Brady. It's not Peyton and Montana. It's not Peyton and it's not Brady and Montana. It's not Brady and Johnny Unitas. It's not Brady and Terry Bradshaw. Like, get the hell out of here with anybody else who's not named Tom Brady. It is a ridiculous argument to make that he is not the greatest quarterback in the history of professional football. I will not stand for it. We got to get out of here before I blow a gasket. 615-737-1045. We're going to talk about Vols hoops at Mizzou tonight, coming up next. Getting a lot of tweets on this Tuesday. Welcome back. Buckethead says, you and Cosell put out good stuff, but can we get a pod with you and Mike Giardi of the NFL Network? At what point, one, I think that would be completely and totally untenable. I think me and Mike would kill each other, which was probably why it would be good content. But, like, how many more podcasts you guys want me to do? I've got, 3 of them now at this point? Well, no, 2 podcasts, a streaming show, and a radio show. Is nobody – I'm tired of hearing myself talk. More podcasts is not the answer. Maybe we'll see if Mike can't be a frequently recurring guest, because I do enjoy our time together. But we can talk more about the NFL later on. I've got some draft stuff I want to get into later today. But Tennessee, 4 games – well, everybody, 4 games left in regular season play. The schedule over the next 4, pretty interesting for the Vols when you kind of break it down. They're at Missouri tonight, a team that has clearly struggled throughout the course of this SEC, or throughout the course of conference play, certainly, and really for the duration of their season. They host number 3 Auburn later this week. Well, I guess that's this weekend. And they are at Georgia and hosting Arkansas to finish their regular season. So a 4-game stretch, 2 teams that are going to give them problems, 2 teams that they should be able to handle with relative ease. And coming off the way that Tennessee lost to Arkansas most recently, lost by 10 in Bud Walton. I mean, it was a late run by Arkansas. You had 2 field goals for the Vols in the final 8 minutes of play, and the defense was fine by Arkansas, but it wasn't anything other than them really just being hugely efficient from both just general field goal range and from 3. Can't have that kind of offensive slump. And, right now, catching Auburn in the SEC is out of question as far as the regular season title is concerned. You'll have conference tournaments coming up very, very quickly, as a matter of fact, which I know we're all looking forward to here in Nashville. But with where the Vols are right now, there needs to be some kind of consistency found as far as their shooting is concerned. Now, obviously, this is a game that you should be able to handle, and it gives you a little extra juice because do Vols fans still, do they hate Konzo Martin? Like, is it outright hate?
He's polarizing for sure.
The way that things ended with the Vols and Konzo Martin was one of the more interesting storylines to follow. That happened, I think, right as I was moving down here out of college.
Yeah, Donnie Tyndall took over in 2015. So, yes, that would have been at the end of the 2013-14 season that the divorce happened after the Sweet 16 run, which ended up being his best run as head coach at Tennessee.
I still can't believe Donnie Tyndall got a 10-year show cause. It seems so harsh.
His stint in Knoxville feels like a fever dream. It's like, did that happen?
Donnie Tyndall?
Yeah.
It was a bit of a roller coaster.
My freshman year of college.
Oh, well, that's why it feels like a fever dream. Anyway. But at this point, Missouri is no great opponent. They're 4-10 in conference. They're 10-17 on their season so far. They're 8 games out of the SEC lead. Tennessee right now 2 games back of Auburn. Auburn, Kentucky, Arkansas with a head-to-head win over the Vols. And the top 5, Tennessee, LSU, round out the top 5 in the SEC. And we fully expect, by the way, Florida is trying to push to get back into the tournament. I think Florida is very much alive, which would expand our conversation about how many SEC teams are going to make the tournament to potentially 7.
Yeah, it would have to be Florida to make it 7, unless, a Mississippi State made some kind of crazy SEC tournament run.
I don't see it right now.
No,
Vandy's on its last gasp. Do they play Alabama tonight?
They do, 8 p.m. tip tonight.
That'd be interesting to watch.
Yeah, they've improved throughout the season. You got to give Stackhouse some credit.
Truly.
From where they were when he took over.
I'd love to have Jerry Stackhouse on the show, actually. I don't know what his availability is like during the season, but if Coach Stackhouse would like to join us, I'd be interested to talk to him because they've got the SEC's leading scorer, and they get, again, this is kind of like the soccer team, right? I say that they don't get nearly enough pub, fully acknowledging the fact that we almost never talk about Vanderbilt because there is a general lack of interest in what's going on West End. You're talking about an NBA great who's coaching the SEC's leading scorer who is the son of a Hall of Famer who is just heavily featured at the NBA 75, and I mean, barely a peep about this, right? There's just a general lack of interest in what's going on. Again, this speaks to a larger problem with college basketball in general, but when people are going to pay attention to college basketball in the city of Nashville, certainly, and largely in our audience, they're going to gravitate towards Tennessee. And again, Tennessee being the better team, clearly and obviously at this point, even though Vanderbilt gave them a little bit of a scare early in the season. I mean, I fully expect there's no reason why they can't go to Missouri and win tonight.
Missouri's going to make it they're going to make it gross, right? That's what Conzo Martin does. Part of a lot of Tennessee fans' disdain for Conzo Martin is that style of play. But no, you're absolutely right. It's unquestionably a game that this would be a bad loss. To their credit, they do not have a bad loss yet this season. Not
Tennessee?
one. Yes. Not one. This would be a bad loss.
I guess you're right. They really don't. Just kind of going through their wins and losses on the season thus far. I mean, if anything,
they're pretty much all tournament teams.
And I haven't been looking closely at the quadrant 1 or quadrant 2 wins, like that kind of stuff, how they meter out the tournament. I know that we have our bracket projections right now. The first couple of them, I think, started coming out on Sunday.
Tennessee a 4 seed in Lenardi's latest one that came out, I believe, today.
Yeah, I guess the only loss that it's not a bad loss because they were the 18th ranked team in the country, but I mean, just getting the floor wiped, just getting smoked at Kentucky was a difficult one, but a bad loss, no. Well, Texas is terrible.
Texas is a tournament team.
Texas is not good.
They
just got swept by Texas Tech. Chris Beard is getting booed all over the place at Texas, by the way.
They've been inconsistent. They've had flashes this year where they've made a push, kind of risen up the polls a little bit, but they are a tournament team.
It's a 1-point loss.
Out of the Big 12.
That Texas game was gross.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to watch gross basketball tonight.
Oh,
the Arkansas game was gross.
If you don't want to watch gross basketball, don't watch a Missouri coached Conzo Martin team or a Conzo Martin coached Missouri team.
We're going to talk about it tomorrow, so I'm obviously going to watch it.
Yes, you have to watch it.
I just I get so angry when
it has potential to be gross. Unless Tennessee just is able to run their offense and basically run away, it has potential to be one of those.
It's cool. Indiana took Ohio State to overtime last night and pooped themselves. I can't get any satisfaction out of my favorite sport. If people want to know why I talk so much NFL is because college basketball makes me physically sad.
March starts in a week, man.
Yes, it does.
7 days.
We are going to be at the Combine, as a matter of fact, for that entire first week of March. And when we come back, I'm going to tell you how this NFL draft class is stacking up. Where are the main attractions? Because I'll tell you right now, it's not the quarterbacks. We'll get into draft conversation and the most critical offseason needs for the Tennessee Titans, as well as a Deshaun Watson update. We haven't had one of those in quite some time. That's next.
It is 12:01. Good afternoon. I'm Lucas Panzica. An update in the case of Houston Texans quarterback Deshaun Watson as a Houston judge ruled Monday Watson can face questions under oath in some of the 22 civil cases filed against him by women alleging harassment and sexual assault during massage sessions. Watson's attorney said a decision on whether or not Watson will be criminally charged will likely come by April 1st. He also had a motion denied to delay Watson's deposition until after April 1st. Could be bad news for Atlanta Braves fans. ESPN's Buster Olney reporting there is a growing belief that first baseman Freddie Freeman could land elsewhere due to a standoff in negotiations with the franchise. 17th ranked Tennessee looking to bounce back from a loss at Arkansas that ended an 8-game win streak tonight as the Vols traveled to Missouri facing former head coach Conzo Martin and the 10-17 Tigers. Tip-off is at 6 p.m. Hear the Vol Network broadcast right here on 104.5 The Zone. And the Preds have lost 4 in a row since the All-Star break. They have slid to 4th in the Central Division. Back on the road tonight at the Florida Panthers. It is a 6 p.m. puck drop. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Final hour on this Tuesday. We are underway here on 104.5 The Zone. Welcome in, welcome back. Happy to have you guys here with us until 1 o'clock. Lucas is making it happen behind the scenes. You can jump in if you want to. You'll talk to Lucas first, and then you can talk to me. 615-737-1045 is the number. 615-737-1045. You can jump in if you like. It seems like a lot of people are gravitating over to the Pat McAfee show right now, currently live on YouTube. Now, I don't say this to send people away from our show, but I'm laughing out loud because Aaron Rodgers is set to do his weekly appearance with McAfee. And, of course, as the hugely cryptic social media post that went out last night. Lucas, if I had to ask you how many people are watching McAfee's show right now live, it's not Rodgers yet. How many people would you guess are watching the Pat McAfee show live on YouTube at this moment?
Oh, boy. I'm just going to crazy highball it and say 900,000.
Okay. That completely defeats the purpose of the game. 80,000 is the number. It's still a lot of people. 900,000 is what you chose to go with?
90,000. I meant to say 90,000.
All right. Very good.
Did I say 900?
It's almost better when you highball it that way and just completely undermine me. Yeah, there's 80,000 people watching Pat's show right now. I was laughing during the commercial break because Mike Tanier, forgive me, I always mispronounce it, but I know he does J. Martin Ramon fairly often. He's at Pro Football Focus. He writes a fantastic weekly column during the NFL season. He tweets, "I'm going to get a haircut. Make sure to buzz me if his royal surliness says anything interesting on the Shouting Punter cast."
He's going to come on, but the media just creates this stuff, and I don't know where any of it's coming from. That's what we're going to get.
Do people care, like, that athletes are just completely hijacking everything as far as news cycles are concerned? Because I had a tweet earlier, and I want to find it so I can attribute proper credit. John Kepley, who tweets us, poll question for Buck Reising, and he misspelled poll. It's P-O-L-L as opposed to P-O-L-E, John. Either way. Poll question for Buck Reising. Does Buck secretly record Young and the Restless because of his love for NFL drama? Talk about anything else? One, yes. Big fan. I'm done with the radio show at 1 o'clock. There's all kinds of daytime soaps on. I don't even have the DVR. I can just watch it while I work. But, 80,000 people are watching Ian Rappaport update Pat McAfee on his ski trip right now because they're waiting to hear about Aaron Rodgers and what Aaron Rodgers has to say. And while I do understand that the NFL and the NBA, the whole reason that they keep conversations alive around them is because they're so good at off-season drama. It becomes a 24/7, 365 news cycle type of thing outside of 6 weeks in June and July. So, we'll keep you updated if Aaron Rodgers says anything of particular interest. But, I don't know if people care about the way that athletes are completely hijacking the way that we consume them. And I'm not saying this is somebody who's angry media member shaking my fist at the sun, like, why don't you care about journalism anymore, blah, blah, blah. Like, I get it, right? I lose when it comes to that. People don't care about where they get their information, where they get their reporting, who said it. And even if it's wrong, they'll go back and get the right thing eventually because that kind of stuff doesn't matter to people anymore. Like, I get it. I lose that argument every time. But, I mean, at what point do we not get tired of Aaron Rodgers getting to tell people whatever he wants on his terms, whether it's right or not, whether it's factually accurate or not? Or do we just not care because Aaron Rodgers is famous quarterback X and 80,000 people are going to flock to it just to see what he has to say about a dumbass Instagram post?
I do think a lot of people check out of the off-season drama. It may not feel that way on social media, but most people aren't on social media.
Yeah. I think that, oh God, he looks terrible. He's in an Office t-shirt right now. And maybe you're right about that. Because our prism is definitely skewed given how much time we spend living and working and sleeping and breathing and eating and all of this different stuff. The content turns out to be about 80% NFL because they keep just dominating the news cycle every time something happens. Because now people are live tweeting the Pat McAfee interview. Aaron Rodgers on the Pat McAfee show says he is not going to make a call on his future today.
Okay, well, there you go.
So thank you for all of that. So what are we talking about, Aaron? Like, why do I care? This is like Kyler Murray deleting all his Instagram pictures and being like, I'm not about that nonsense. I'm a pro. I just want to swat him. Or he's just like your little brother. You want to hold him by his head at a distance and let him like run and swing his arms at you.
So now that Aaron Rodgers came out and immediately said there will be no news today, what's the viewership on the Pat McAfee show?
Watching it live? I saw a screenshot. I went away.
I bet it's been cut in half.
You think it's been cut in half?
Absolutely.
I don't know. 100,000 people were watching people like Dan Katz of Barstool live stream NCAA 2015 games because he was coaching for the University of Tennessee. Like 100,000 people will watch anything on the internet. This is, again, a deep problem that I have with the current media environment that we live in. But you're right. Most people aren't on social media. And what Cy says, or at least I think that's how it's pronounced, SYI 23600 on YouTube, says the Titans would deal with Aaron Rodgers and his BS for a Super Bowl. I mean, sure, but he's only got one. It's not like Aaron. That's the whole thing about Aaron Rodgers. Like, getting him does not guarantee a Super Bowl. The Rams getting Matt Stafford last year did not guarantee a Super Bowl. It was trading for Matt Stafford and getting Von Miller on basically bargain basement trade deadline deals and getting scrap heap OBJ, who ended up being one of your biggest contributors down the stretch. Like, people are so narrow-minded about this kind of stuff that it drives me insane.
Dealing with the salary of Ryan Tannehill is also a lot harder than dealing with Aaron Rodgers' BS. There's a little more to it than that.
I mean, there is, Jameson says it's gone up to $135K right now because Aaron Rodgers is physically on the screen. The 80,000 was just people in there waiting for Ian Rappaport to get the hell off the screen so they can look at Aaron Rodgers and his greasy hair. Oh, goodness. 615-737-1045. Instead of talking about that, I want to talk about this NFL draft class coming up because, in getting ready for the combine, I'm full on in my draft prep. I know Rep Brian and Coach Dave McGinnis and the whole Titans radio crew who are going up to Indianapolis with me, by the way, because we'll be broadcasting the show live from the combine March 1st through the 4th. Thanks to Scoreboard Bar and Grill for making all of our coverage possible. On that note, which Scoreboard Bar and Grill has been fantastic for all of our various trips that we've had to take throughout the course of the football season and off season. But yeah, there's going to be a lot of discussion around the top prospects in this draft, and I honestly think that there may not be a top 10 quarterback in this draft class. The more that I talk to people, the more that I see where teams who may need a quarterback are selecting. The depth of the draft class being primarily offensive and defensive line. The idea that the best quarterback in the draft class right now is probably Malik Willis out of Liberty, and at that point, you are just trafficking heavily in upside and potential, which is fine. That's a gamble that you have to take sometimes, right? Patrick Mahomes he seems like the obvious decision for the Kansas City Chiefs to trade up for a couple of years ago, but at the time, that was very much not so. We talk about potential with Josh Allen. Josh Allen's accuracy was horrific when he was a college quarterback at Wyoming. And still in his first year or two in the NFL. And then all of a sudden we see this miraculous leap from him because, of course, he's the most talented quarterback, the most physically gifted quarterback of anybody in the league right now. But the problem is there's not even a Josh Allen in this draft class at the quarterback position. There's certainly not a Patrick Mahomes as we sit here right now. So kind of looking at where for the Titans' purposes and what positions may go to get them out of the way, well, you've got teams picking high in the draft, normally going for quarterbacks. That's not a luxury that you have afforded to you this year because largely the quarterbacks aren't very good. We're going to talk about the most critical Titans offseason need when it comes to this NFL draft class and kind of get into some more details on some players, as well as a Deshaun Watson update. Since so many people have been wanting to know about quarterbacks and quarterback movement, we'll be able to provide that to you coming up next. Draft season. What we're caught up in the middle of. I think that we should boycott Aaron Rodgers as a show. I've made the executive decision. Every NFL insider that I have on social media is live tweeting his interview with Pat McAfee. I'm sick of it. I know that at some point I'm going to be backed into a corner and I'll have to discuss Aaron Rodgers again. But Lucas, you've been keeping tabs on this. What did Aaron Rodgers say that his cryptic social media posts were about? Why everybody thinks that he's retiring or leaving the Packers or, making some kind of life-altering decision?
A product of a 12-day cleanse that he had just came out of and was feeling gratitude, so he wanted to express that.
Okay, so he set the internet on fire. Now does Pat McAfee show, smiling in his Dunder Mifflin shirt, knowing exactly what he's done. So in the same way that Combine prospects were thinking about boycotting or partially boycotting the NFL Combine, I am now instituting a show boycott of Aaron Rodgers and all Aaron Rodgers-related content, which I'm sure will not last very long. In the meantime, draft needs at this point and strategies that I think the Titans should explore. It's going to be a pretty interesting offseason. Right now, in terms of projected cap space, they're going to be about $7.1 million over the cap. Understand that not only will that account for free agency contracts and things of that nature. Dawn Davenport just walked by the studio, by the way, Lucas, and told me that I was number one. So I may reciprocate when I'm off camera.
Is that it? Is that what she was trying to get across?
I think so. In fact, you should go grab her and tell her to get her ass in here, because now I want to yell at her about trying to distract me, effectively distracting me while I do a radio show. But $7 million, over $7 million over the cap right now. You got some interesting decisions to make. Lawan, Saffold, Jackrabbit are the names that come up with the biggest savings associated with their current contracts. We know that the Titans are still in a window of contention, and we know that two positions in particular desperately need to be upgraded: tight end and offensive line. Edge is less of a priority than I think a lot of people would make under normal circumstances, but I do believe right now that even without Harold Landry, if that situation was to come about, I do believe that they would be able to piece together maybe not that great of a pass rush as they had last year, but a similar pass rush with the addition and with the return of somebody like Rashad Weaver to give them legitimately meaningful snaps. So when you look ahead at this draft class, tight end is a position that I think is both going to have a solution in free agency and in the NFL draft. Talked a little bit about Zach Ertz and the reports that connected him to the Titans when Philadelphia was desperately trying to shop him and ultimately did get a trade partner. In Arizona, that guy's now an unrestricted free agent and will come at a relatively inexpensive cost. But this year's tight end class, when you go through, you watch the film. Of course, we went down to the Senior Bowl to study these guys more in person, start to watch more of the tape, whether it be Trey McBride out of Colorado State or Jeremy Ruckert out of Ohio State, a variety of different tight ends that can give you different things but can still give meaningful contributions to an offense that desperately needs them, especially one that's predicated on two tight end sets. I think that you can basically wait till day 3 or day 4 to get a tight end, and you understand, or excuse me, day 2 or day 3 to get a tight end. Rounds 3 or 4 to get a tight end. This gets complicated because you don't have a second-round pick and you do need offensive line help. Offensive line, if it's not a premier tackle, and you will not be finding a premier tackle at 26, I struggle with the idea of taking a guard or center with the 26th overall selection. I understand it's basically a second-round pick, so you're taking then what would amount to a higher second-round pick on an offensive lineman, an interior player, whether it's Ben Jones' eventual replacement or somebody who can play guard next to Ben until such time as Ben is no longer a solution, but also remember that Ben Jones is an unrestricted free agent this year as well. The offensive line is going to give you the most depth out of this draft, and the interior offensive line class, I think, is getting a lot of due praise. But, I mean, we talked earlier about teams who are exploring cap space and seem to be stuck in this purgatory of trying to figure out how to get themselves over the hump. Indianapolis is having this conversation in the Titans division with Carson Wentz, right? Still expecting him to be traded or released before the March deadline, which is rapidly approaching. It's not March the 1st. I believe it's the second week in March when they'll have to make a decision on Carson Wentz. But understanding that his future is not with the Colts. They're talking about a $20 million interior offensive lineman. Quentin Nelson is regarded as the best guard in football, and respectfully for Quentin Nelson, he has great tape. He puts together a lot of highlights for a left guard, a guy that you do not expect to see highlights from, even if some of those highlights end up getting him fined because he is that physical of a player. Drafting a guard as high as Indy did, and again, that was a top 10 pick, has seen precious little return on investment. This year, both of the Titans' biggest needs, offensive line and tight end, are something that you can look outside of the first round and say, okay, you can find legitimate help there. So what do you do with the first-round selection? I'm inclined, given our conversation around Harold Landry today, I'm inclined to say you let Harold walk and you draft an edge player. There are going to be a couple of different styles of players that are going to be able to contribute, one would hope, right out of the gate. I haven't found any injured players that are going to be value picks in the way that we know that John Robinson has previously explored, both with Jeff Simmons and Caleb Farley, trying to get high caliber talent at a discount. I haven't quite found those players in the first round this year. But with needs at tight end, guard / center, and edge, I would go best player available in the first round, and we'll do more mock draft content. We'll have more draft experts on. Certainly we'll have a lot of insights and analysis up in Indianapolis in, just a week from today? Well, no. We'll be broadcasting the show Wednesday, Thursday, Friday from Indianapolis, and I'll be up there that entire weekend as well, getting good info on the combine and things of that nature. But right now, when you look at what positions are being mocked, there's a lot of linebacker projections for the Tennessee Titans, and I don't know outright that that's incorrect for as much stink as people are making about that. It's pretty early, but at this point, I think it's an interesting discussion. Speaking of interesting, and speaking of NFL drama, we have the first update on Deshaun Watson that I think we've had in the better part of, 3 months? When's the last time we've had legit news? I think probably the start of the NFL season when they started making him a healthy scratch every week, every day at practice. I mean, has there been any development since then?
Really, it's since the cases were filed.
Yeah.
Right? Because, he was a healthy scratch, but that wasn't news. That wasn't a development.
So this from John Barr at ESPN. A judge in Houston ruled on Monday that Deshaun Watson can face questions under oath in at least some of the 22 civil cases filed against him by women who have accused the Texans quarterback of actions ranging from harassment to sexual assault during massage sessions. Now, his attorney, Rusty Hardin, spoke with the media yesterday because Rusty Hardin had recently filed a motion to delay Watson's ability to be deposed until after April 1st and argued that a delay would enable Watson's legal team to secure depositions with all 22 of the women who are suing Watson and also protect Watson from knowing whether he will also face criminal charges. So this was Rusty Hardin meeting with the Houston media earlier.
Law enforcement has taken its time to investigate it. I'm in hopes that they'll reach a conclusion within this next month or so. I asked the court date to postpone him having to take his deposition until we know whether or not what they're going to do. The court declined ultimately and said we're to submit depositions in a couple of weeks. I've tried to make clear that the obligation of a lawyer is to protect a client. And while there is a criminal investigation going on, it is only fair to wait to see whether it results in charges or it doesn't before one decides whether you're going to submit somebody to depositions while they're pending. It's a basic rule of law I think everybody is very comfortable with.
So that's Rusty Hardin, the attorney for Deshaun Watson, the lead attorney for Deshaun Watson in these 22 civil suits that he is facing. A development, but at least some kind of a development, right? Because NFL teams, we talked about the reporting earlier We really didn't get into it that much, honestly, because I think we got swept up with some other news of the day. But that Tom Pelissero had that report out there a couple of weeks ago that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were going to explore any and all quarterback options, including Russell Wilson, should his availability, should he actually become available, and then Deshaun Watson as a part of this pending the legal situation. So it's not only the legal system that's investigating Deshaun Watson, he's also currently under investigation by the league itself. He's been the subject of trade rumors for months now, and he didn't play a snap all season long while staying on the active roster, which again, to me, is one of the most interesting parts of this case. I don't know if the rage and anger towards Ryan Tannehill has subsided enough to where we've eliminated the more ridiculous parts of the conversation. But there can't still be people who are out there yelling for the idea that Tennessee would do themselves a service by upgrading their quarterback position with Deshaun Watson, who has a bigger cap hit next year than Ryan Tannehill. In fact, I think he has the third biggest cap hit among quarterbacks, if I recall. Third or fourth?
Fourth, I believe.
Fourth, right, because Kirk Cousins is 3.
I mean, it's top 5.
Yeah, it's a lot, right? The top 5 is a mess. Matt Ryan, Aaron Rodgers, Kirk Cousins, Deshaun Watson, and Ryan Tannehill. Oof. This is why you got to be careful with those second contracts. As far as what this means for the NFL, I have truly no idea, because they still are arguing things in court on Monday that no attorney would allow a client to provide something like sworn testimony in a civil case when a potential criminal case is looming. So they're trying not to show too much of their hand by getting deposed in a civil case right now. Should there be more updates, though? I think I want to talk to Dan Lust about this, our buddy, the sports attorney, who does so well to provide updates on this and to explain the legalese of it. But right now, I mean, there's no way that he comes out of this clean, right?
I have no idea. I don't think anybody has any idea. The only thing we have now is a date. We have a date where the next development will come, April 1st. That's when, or by April 1st is when we'll find out whether or not he's criminally charged, and then it's the next step, which I don't know what that is. Maybe we'll have Dan Lust on to talk about it, but nobody knows. That's why these rumors, trade rumors, they mean nothing. They mean absolutely nothing.
No, they don't mean nothing.
Yes, they do. About Deshaun Watson, they mean nothing. He's in a complete limbo right now with this situation.
They don't, well, I understand your point, right? Until he is cleared of the legal process. By the way, once he gets cleared of the legal process, then the NFL can come down and say, yeah, we're going to suspend you for however many games or whatever the precedent. I don't know what the precedent is for something like this, depending on what the legal charges, if in fact there are legal charges, civil or criminal, that are a result of this. We have no idea what the legal system is going to clear him of, absolve him of, or charge him with. And then once he gets through that, the NFL is going to do something, because there's no way that they just let him back into the league. But it's not irrelevant, I guess, is my larger point. Because as long as he is he's still in his 20s, right? He's not 30 yet. You're talking about a player at the most important position who does have an overwhelming amount of talent, probably going to be a little rusty coming off a year where he just didn't play football. But even in the middle of all that, you had Stephen Ross, reportedly the owner of the Dolphins, sniffing around that stuff, and Brian Flores.
Sniffing around, yeah, inquiring. But to me, that doesn't mean much when it can't lead to anything.
It means to me that even if there is some kind of legal action, if Deshaun Watson gets charged, depending on how many of these stick to him, if any of these stick to him, again, innocent until proven otherwise, even though, the sheer amount of civil cases filed against this guy, it would be near impossible for us to say, after that, because we're coming up on a year of this. Coming up on at least a year of this. It would be nearly impossible for any of us to imagine, he's going to skate, or he's going to get completely cleared. There's no scenario in which that comes about, right? After all this time, I understand they need to be thorough in their vetting of the information, of the stories. Some of it may be accurate. Some may be, a situation where people are trying to get in on the momentum of it. We have no idea. That's purely speculation. But when I kind of diagnose this, I do think it's something that NFL teams remain interested in him because I think it's going to take a whole, like, say he comes out with charges from 2 of the cases, right? With material that is, problematic. Everything ranging from harassment to sexual assault. Even if it is the milder form of that, which I suppose would be harassment, NFL teams are going to continue to be interested in this guy. That is the part, I want to know what the tipping point is for an NFL team to say, no, I wash my hands of this. Because it never happened with guys like Greg Hardy. Ray Rice is really the only one that we've seen. It's real. Ray Rice and Colin Kaepernick, ironically enough, are 2 of the only people who you knew that they were never getting jobs again in the NFL for completely and totally different reasons. But outside of that, they'll take anybody who can provide them competitive advantage. And, I want to see how it plays out. But just to have any kind of an update on this situation, it's just such a bizarre case to me. 615-737-1045 is how you can jump in on the conversation. We will keep you updated as this goes along. Right now, though, there's conversations being had. But Gary Todd, by the way, tweets us, says, I still think Deshaun will write checks and make these allegations disappear.
They tried.
They tried to settle.
Yeah.
It's happened. Or it's not happened, but they tried to get it to happen. They were not able to reach a settlement.
They weren't able to get the women to sign NDAs.
Sure.
That was ultimately what led to not being able to settle.
Which would absolve him of any future run-ins with this particular situation that he's under fire for. I think, his defiance, for lack of a better term, about this, because even when this first came out, remember, he was pretty strong on social media with the statement that he made, coming from his own accounts. I'm sure it had proper vetting around it from people that he is close to and people that represent his best interests. But, he has been defiant about this, publicly, privately, down to the NDA. If you were Watson, would you settle this even without the NDA? Because even if you settle it, even without an NDA, yes, the details would be out there. They would be hugely unflattering, but they can't come after you again for them. Because, right? That's not something once those details are made public, unless, again, I'm not a legal expert, but I can't imagine that if you agree to terms on a settlement without the NDA, even if the unflattering details get out there, you're not going to get tried for them again. You're not going to get charged for something again after you've already signed the settlement agreement.
It was enough of a hang-up for the settlement talks to fall through for both sides.
We have no idea what comes into this, whether it's public image, whether it's pride, whether it's, just completely being disconnected with the reality of his situation. I have no idea what the proper lens to view this is. But I am fascinated to see how it plays out, because this is something with actual, consequence, not Aaron Rodgers and his emotional Instagram posts.
I'm interested to see if he is not criminally charged, how that changes the news cycle around Deshaun Watson.
If it's not criminal, I bet teams pounce.
Which we'll know in a month if what his attorney is saying is the case.
615-737-1045. You can jump in. Last call for phone calls, and we'll update some polls coming up next.
Hey, Rocket, what's my mortgage rate? Rocket, when am I closing? Is anyone there? Rockets are really cool, but they don't speak mortgage. You need a home loan expert for that. Get pre-approved for your next mortgage at thehomeloanexpert.com.
Last segment. Last call for phone calls, too. 615-737-1045. Been a fun one today. Check out the podcast if you missed anything. Going to have a lot more fun tomorrow. Lucas, what do we have on tap right now for the Wednesday show?
Josh Pate in studio tomorrow, 11:20.
Spicy.
Casey Alexander, head coach of Belmont basketball at 10:45. They have a huge game at Murray State on Thursday.
I always enjoy our time with Coach Alexander and Josh Pate in studio. We've been harassing him long enough. Finally, he has a little time during the college football season. Although last time I checked in on Pate, he was screaming into the ether about the Pac-12 and what is it, Arizona State's quarterback that's transferring, and
Jaden Daniels.
How his teammates appear to hate him because there was a video going around on social media of them clearing out his locker for him.
Yes, a very publicized video. Now, hate him because they truly didn't think he was good and are glad he's gone, or hate him because they thought they could have done something with him there and are upset that he's gone? I don't know.
Yeah, not obviously in tuned enough with that situation, but the Arizona State thing, just to kind of, we'll talk about this with Pate tomorrow, just to do a little college football health check. Arizona State's been in some stuff. A lot of their staff has kind of either been fired or been moving away from the program. Herm Edwards is kind of in some stuff. Like, he kind of stepped in it a little bit with recruiting violations.
Almost everybody surrounding Herm Edwards is out of there, except the head man, who is still there. And I'm surprised that worked out even to the extent that it did early on, because I think a lot of people saw that as, Arizona State, what are you doing?
Well, but I mean, it was successful, right?
Oh, for a minute there, they found some early success. I mean, think about it. I believe that was the same hiring cycle as Jeremy Pruitt. So
it was.
So what was the better hire?
Herm. Herm for sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's a low bar, but yes.
Even if they get embroiled in actual recruiting violation scandals, not just allegedly made up McDonald's bag things to get out from under having to pay an employee or fire an employee or being able to fire an employee for cause and get out of that contract. I think the college football landscape is something that's so intriguing this offseason more than any other, at least as far as I'm concerned, watching everything get stripped down to its bare bones. What else do we have to follow up with before we get out of here for the day? I don't think anything. Let's do some polls.
Oh, Nelly, this is Keith Jackson talking about college football. It's time to stop the count. The polls have closed, and the granddaddy of them all has been tallied with your poll update. Oh, Nelly, talking about Buck Reising Show producer and daily correspondent, Lucas Panzica.
Presented by Two Rivers Ford, powered by Ford, driven by people. Who are the winners of the weekend? Dane says, anyone who did not watch the dunk contest. I am proud to say I am part of that group.
I didn't watch the dunk contest. I heard people were livid. I need to look up who was in the dunk contest this year, because I saw Obi Toppin.
He won it, I believe.
Who has done just nothing. That was a terrible draft class, too. Obi Toppin out of Dayton. I think he was the best consensus player. He was the best player in the country that year in college basketball. Obi Toppin won it. Who else? Juan Toscano Anderson?
Never heard of him.
Anthony Simmons. No, that was last year. I know who Anthony Simmons is. Wow, was there like 4 people? There was only 4 people that participated in the dunk contest? What a mess. I missed out on that. So, winner of the sports weekend, me and Lucas, for not being able to have to suffer through the dunk contest, which Shaq looked just miserable based on the pictures of him on the internet during.
Andrew also says, you are a winner for your polar plunge work. He says, well done.
Oh, well, I was not a winner in terms of my form, nor my ability to get out safely from the ice tub. But yeah, we raised some money, so it was a good deal.
And Brad Duff, sticking to the NBA All-Star Weekend, Steph Curry is the winner for 16 threes and All-Star Game MVP, 50 points on the night.
I want to know, Steph Curry's they're 42-17 right now, the Golden State Warriors. They've actually got a really fun game coming up on Thursday against Portland, even though they're under 500 right now. That's going to be an interesting game. Steph's kind of carrying the Warriors in ways that he used to, But, I mean, he's kind of at the end of his career. I want to know how many more years Steph Curry has to be able to play this style of basketball. Because he's going to age pretty interestingly. Not like Russell Westbrook, who's just falling apart and there's steam and smoke coming out of sockets and joints and all these things and, hissing rage as he flies towards the basket and then just bricks another three.
Breaking backboards with his three-pointers.
I mean, he's still wildly athletic. It's just there's zero control, and that style ages so badly.
Who are the losers of the weekend? Dane chimes in again and says anyone who did watch the dunk contest. V-Love says it's Annie Agar, of course, the NFL-related influencer, for lack of a better word, who has been going at Jags fans. She goes at several fan bases and had some tweets dug up from earlier in her youth.
She currently works for Bally Sports. I saw her at the Super Bowl, actually. I mean, to meet her in person was lovely, but then to see the reason that she is getting accosted on social media because of some tweets that she had during the Colin Kaepernick era are less than ideal. In fact, quite racially charged, I would say. Now, I mean, is it bad? This feels kind of weird to do this kind of a segment with the poll music going in the background like we're raging at the club, taking shots as we talk about cancel culture. But I'm almost at the point that I don't know how do people still get pissed about this, or is this just like a 2 or 3 day outrage? The individual who has this happen has to suffer some kind of personal shame, make a public apology, and then we're all just numb to it because I feel like it happens so often now.
Yeah, I have no idea where we stand on this.
All I know is it scares me.
Goody says Braves fans learning Freddie might be leaving.
Yeah, Freddie Freeman. I want to talk to somebody who's reporting on the Atlanta Braves situation. Not that we're going to capitulate outright to Charlie and Franklin and talk baseball, but the news that Freddie Freeman is not expected to return to the Atlanta Braves coming off their World Series championship, that warrants further discussion. I'd like to check in with somebody who's covering the Braves here this week.
On that note, Joe Buck, winner of the weekend after he got roasted for saying, could that be the final home run of Freddie Freeman's career in the World Series? And the
vindication.
Yes, vindication.
Well, because we had bratty Braves fans, like, we have one in house in particular, Will Bowling, who's spitting rage.
He was so mad that Buck
Joe
said
Buck.
that.
Man, just what do you want him to say? Like he didn't mean it that way. Calm down. This
he
is like every
right.
time. Well, he is right, turns out, or reportedly. Reportedly right. This is like every time somebody throws stuff on a field, like during the damn what's the waste management, the golf tournament, the waste management on the 16th when they hit the hole-in-one. Yeah. People start throwing stuff on the field, and I'm just sitting there waiting for Will Bowling to sourly tweet, "Oh, I thought Tennessee fans were the only one who throws." He does it every time. Every time. Lazy.
Harold Landry, re-sign, tag, or let him walk. 58% say re-sign, 33% say tag, 9% say let him walk.
I think I'm in the 9%. Which I did not expect to be. But I think there can be a case made that Harold Landry is helped more by the defense than the defense. Or excuse me, Harold Landry is helped. No, I said that right. Harold Landry is helped more by the defense than Harold Landry helps the actual defense itself.
Now, here's one aspect of it that we didn't really talk about. Could you do kind of what you did with Derrick Henry, where they initially tagged Derrick Henry before agreeing to a deal, be able to tag him and then down the road kind of see how some other finances work out and then see what you can work out.
Yeah, but that's months away and the tag deadline just opened. So that is a very, very premature conversation.
Well, we're asking sign him or let him walk.
No, don't do this to me right now. It's February. Keep
is
it moving.
5 games enough of a suspension for Juwan Howard? 52% say yes. Thought it would be a little more disparity there.
We did have a caller. You said call in and say the Juwan Howard had a previous issue. I had forgotten that he got into it with Maryland's coach, who's not. I don't think he's there anymore.
No, I don't believe so. Last season in the Big Ten tournament, he got ejected.
Yeah,
yes, Turgeon.
Mark Turgeon. So this, I mean, if it happens again, it becomes a trend, and then it becomes a fireable offense. I think right now you're just talking heat of the moment, and also Greg Gard. Like Greg Gard is not blameless in all of this, and whatever the hell that assistant coach said to piss Juwan Howard. Think about getting in a fight with somebody and being so enraged by whatever another person off to the side said that you are then distracted from the person who you are initially trying to fight with, and then more violently react to the other person who's chirping at you from the side. I want to know what that assistant coach said.
The assistant did not receive any punishment. Greg Gard received a $10,000 fine. 2 Michigan players and 1 Wisconsin player suspended 1 game each. Juwan Howard, 5 games, $40,000.
Dumb. The whole thing's dumb.
How many rounds would you wait to draft a tight end? 1, 3, since the Titans don't have a second-round pick, 4 or 5. 68% say 3, 18% say first round, 12% 4, 2% 5.
I don't know that there's a first-round tight end, so I think those people aren't paying attention to this draft class. But I will say to you, I wouldn't wait much longer than the third round because you're picking low, and those things will spiral quickly. Those the polls?
Those are the polls.
Very good. That's the show. Blaine and Mickey are next.